Sziasztok! I'm Claire Stamper, a Purdue University alum, boiler up, and I am currently serving with the Navigators on iEDGE in Budapest, Hungary. And I am so excited to be able to share with you tonight a little bit about Hungary and my experience here, how the Lord grew in me a heart for the nations and led me to come on iEDGE, and what I am learning about Him here in my time overseas. So a little bit about Hungary. Hungary's history is one marked by occupation, oppression, and rule from other countries. And only 26 years ago, communism fell. But its fingerprint remains on the heart and the soul of this current generation of Hungarians. And this can be seen in forms of secularism, high outer walls of distrust, pessimism, and a lack of belief that one can personally influence their own environment in a positive way. Now, for the past year, my team and I have been working to pioneer a citywide, Christ-centered community of university students. And in the grassroots stage of our ministry, we're focusing on casting our nets wide, placing ourselves in a variety of positions, such as teaching assistants at the university, conductors of cultural research, and hosts of discussion-based and community initiatives in order to make connections with students, trusting that the Lord would give us persons of peace to be able to journey with towards the cross. Now, for story time. I can't pinpoint exactly when the Lord began to grow in me a heart for the nations. It was certainly a gradual thing, but I do remember that the summer before I began university, I told God that the one thing I was not going to do after I graduated is become a missionary. I wasn't about to put so much time and energy and money into a degree just to throw it away like that. But God has a very funny sense of humor. In my first week on campus at Purdue, I met the Navigators and got involved in a freshman Bible study where I was the only freshman. But there I became friends with Vicky, a Chinese gal who had come to faith recently and would frequently share of her longing for the good news of the gospel to be brought to her friends and her family back home in China. And I think it was probably then that God was beginning to seed in me a heart for the nations. And He began to water that seed throughout the remainder of my time in university, in placing me among many international friends and giving me opportunities to travel abroad, which opened my eyes to the world in new ways. And He convicted me gently of His call on my life, that He had given me and all believers to go and make disciples of the nations, as Jesus commands in Matthew 28:19. And that this call wasn't for the super Christians, but for me as well. And that obeying Christ looked like making disciples of all nations. And so as graduation approached my senior year, I sensed that God had opened a variety of doors for me to step into after graduation, iEDGE being included. And so after seeking the Lord about it and the counsel of friends and mentors in my life, I began to ask myself the question, what was 2 years of my life in the grand scheme of eternity to take the gospel into the nations by coming on iEDGE? And I figured never in my life will I probably ever be this free to be able to pick up my life and move it somewhere else. And why, when so many people either can't go and take the gospel overseas or won't go, would I choose to stay? And so I did. I decided to go, and I came on iEDGE. And in this past year on iEDGE, the Lord has been teaching me so much about Himself. Something that stands out, though, that He's been teaching me is how He's wired me with just this deep love and passion for adventure, and that I'm prone to chase after my own selfish adventures time and time again, instead of loving God and loving others. And the Lord is showing me that the greatest adventure of all time is to surrender my whole self to Him, and His Spirit's leading to love Him and others so that His gospel and His name would be known. Now Luke 10:12 says that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. There is always a need for more laborers to be sent out into the harvest field of the nations. And so I would encourage you, if you're thinking about the nations, seek the Lord and ask Him, is He asking you to go? Is there anything holding you back from going? Now, a way that you can join me in what the Lord is doing in Budapest is through prayer. Would you join me in praying that the Lord would raise up a foundational generation of Hungarian believers who would be able to take the gospel to their friends and to the next generation and be a light for the nations? And would you also pray for my team and myself that the Lord would give us sensitive hearts to follow His Spirit's leading in pioneering a ministry in these ever-changing circumstances of COVID? We need His wisdom and His guidance and deep trust in what He is doing in these times. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you tonight. It was a joy from Budapest. Viszontlátásra. God bless.